And I have to ask you,
Chris,
what was it?
You were on fire that night.
What is it like touring the South as you just did? I'm looking, I feel like this is Burns and Allen's, and you got these stickers on your trunk, you know. Greenville, Atlanta, Nashville, New Orleans, Austin, Dallas. And I was just thinking, South Carolina, the home of Mark Sanford. That must have been fun. And then you went to New Orleans, the home of David Vitter. I mean, you're making the tour. You got all those Republican trouble spots.
Gee, I wish these dates were upcoming. You're plugging them, and I already did them. What good is this?
Well, I already plugged your damn
but yes,
show.
You're right. I know. No, I had a lot of fun. Chris, I love going to the South. The South is the funnest place for me to play because, you know, you go to a place like Greenville, or I was also in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let's plug that one. I did it in April. And, you know, there are so many progressive people who live in these states. Now, of course, they're marbled in and surrounded by a bunch of hillbillies and rednecks. But the fact that they're just there is a very positive thing. And when I come to their town, they all come out of the woodwork, and they come to my show. And I feel very good that these people do exist everywhere in the United States. And I think they feel good that I didn't forget them and say, oh, I'm not going to go to that state. That's a bunch of hillbillies. That I went there and said, no, I recognize that there are people like this everywhere. So I have a great time in the South.
Isn't it refreshing to meet Southern liberals? Because the great thing about Southern liberals is they're not competing for the latest nuance of sexual freedom like in Greenwich Village. They are liberals, meaning they're for black equality, for example. Things like that that are pretty nice and wholesome.
You mean new concepts? Yes, and I mean, you saw that all day with the Sotomayor hearings. You know, all these white people, especially these white men, who are so incensed about reverse racism and Sotomayor, because, you know, the problem, Chris, is that for too long, Puerto Rican women have had their boot on the neck of white men in America, and this must stop. You know,
I just love Lindsey Graham going after her today about anger management. And here's the guy who was the biggest supporter of John McCain. And he wanted McCain to be president of the United States, and he was wondering whether she might have a temperament problem. Did he ever check in with his #1 hero on that point?
Temperament and background. They all act like, you know, her background as a Puerto Rican woman, I don't know how you walk around being that, is somehow different than, you know, like Jeff Sessions' background as a Southern, you know, come on. I mean, he was sort of cast as a racist at one point. Like, that doesn't come into play in his decision-making.
No, he's made some unfavorable comments about the NAACP over the years. Let me ask you about this. How do you handle home state favorites like Mark Sanford or David Vitter? I think you didn't make it to some of the other states where there's problem Republicans, but they're all over the place. Vegas has got a problem with Ensign out there. There's so many of them. You got Rick Perry who wants to secede from the Union down in Dallas. You were down there. There's always somebody local to bang.
Right. Right, I love it, you know, and I don't shy away from it. You're right, I was just in Austin and Dallas, and I talked about Rick Perry, who just was incensed about Obama trying to give his state stimulus money to help the poor people of Texas, and because of that, he threw down the S card, secession, over stimulus money. And I said to them, you know, please, Texas, what will we ever do if Texas secedes from the Union? How can we get along without the state that's 48th in literacy and first in air pollution? And, you know, there was a smattering of booze. You're not going back there for a while, are you? I like to go into it. No, I mean, you know, these people have a great sense of humor about it. And to arrive in South Carolina, as I did the day after the Sanford story broke, and I actually kind of defended him. Not that I'm defending hypocrisy or conservative Christian right-wing Republicans, but, you know, at least Sanford was truly in love. And I think he looks very good next to all the other cheating politicians we've seen in recent years. I mean, this guy, we got his emails. What did we see in his emails? What's this?
I'm with you on that one. Especially after watching what Ensign did on her. Ensign just cashiered this lady and said, you know, I acted on my pleasure and selfishness. You don't exist as a person. Whereas this guy, you read the poetry of his letters and his email. I mean, he obviously, whatever you make of it, and marital fidelity is obviously important, but whatever it is here, it's the real thing, it looks like. And, you know, it is what it is, you know?
Right. I mean, when you read about, we're so accustomed to Bill Clinton with Monica Lewinsky and John Edwards and Elliot Spitzer and, you know, all these politicians, Ensign, as you mentioned, and it's always just sleazy. They're just having sex with the easiest roadkill they can find. It's just, you know, oh my gosh, the door just closed. My wife's in the other room. Come over here and touch me. You know, it's this very sleazy, quick kind of sex. And this guy, Sanford, you know, I tell you, he could win women back if he just went to this mistress, because obviously that's who he loves. I mean, that's the third act of the movie. The first act is he falls in love. The second act is he tries to reconcile with his wife. And the third act is the wife finally says, go to her. It's she you truly love.